Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. The workshop today has a focus of why use the coach approach. And as leaders, you are consistently, if not perhaps constantly, called upon to give insight to others, to give direction. I mean, as a leader, you lead. So you are problem solving, you are bringing solutions to people and to ministries. You have people coming to you who desire to have different kinds of situations resolved. You know, you're called upon in many, many different ways to draw upon your problem-solving abilities and draw from the Spirit of God in you to bring to others what they need. And we need that. We need to implement the anointing of God. We need to walk in that anointing. We need to implement the things that God's put inside of us. However, at the same time, there are opportunities that come our way that allow us to ask questions of others that will enable them and empower them to draw on the Spirit of God in them. And by doing so, they come up with their own problem solving. They come up with, their solutions. They come up with different options for dealing with various situations. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today with why use the coach approach. In order to really understand the coach approach, we want to always be on the same page as far as coaching is concerned. So I want to take a couple of minutes and just talk about coaching. Now, coaching we often think of in terms of the athletic arena. So you have a coach maybe with a hat on, have a clipboard, definitely has a whistle around their neck. And the coach is going to be working with athletes, identifying what they're doing wrong, telling them how they should do it right, demonstrating to them, and then a lot of times just telling them to get right back in there and do it, and this time do it right or else. If you don't want to run those 10 laps, you need to go ahead and get this thing right and do it the way I showed you. And we're not trying to show a coach is mean or hard, but just the idea that when we think of a coach in the terms of athletics, we're really looking at someone who is demonstrating a skill and showing someone how to do it, and then placing a demand upon them, being very directive in terms of them going ahead and implementing that. When it comes to the kind of coaching that we're talking about, really what we're focused on is a non-directive approach to coaching. There are a number of ways to coach people and various methods of coaching. And we're not saying that the way that we do it is right and the others are wrong. We're simply saying that we've chosen to use this method, this approach. It works well, it fits well with us, and we've seen tremendous fruit as a result of it. So we take a non-directive approach to coaching. That means that as a coach, I'm not going to supply solutions to people. I'm not going to tell them what they should be doing. I'm not going to direct them to take certain or specific actions. Rather, I'm going to be working with them so that they can discern these things. They can come up with the kinds of solutions that will best fit their scenario and then implement the appropriate steps that they need to take. So a couple of descriptions that I came across relative to coaching. It really defines what coaching is. The first one you see there's coaching is practicing the discipline of believing in people in order to empower them to change. One of the things I love about this statement is that it talks about the fact that we believe in people. As leaders, we don't want to come across to people like we know it all. We have it all together. We don't have flaws. We don't have anything in our lives that isn't completely perfect or up to speed. Therefore, I'm directing you as to the things you should do, because you probably don't have enough sense to know how to do it. Rather, coaching, the way we approach it is that we believe in people. We believe they know how to hear from God. They have the Spirit of God in them. They know how to discern the leading of the Lord. They can identify the path that God has for them. They can listen to the Lord in terms of the kinds of solutions they need to problems and issues. And our goal as a coach is to ask them the kinds of questions that allow them to discover what the Holy Spirit has for them that then empowers them to change. So coaching is practicing the discipline of believing in people in order to empower them to change. And then the next one is a quote from a guy named Dave Stahl. And what he says is he contrasts mentoring with coaching. He says, mentoring is imparting to you what God has given me. But coaching is drawing out of you what God has put in you. Great depiction of coaching, drawing out of people what God's already put in them. And then coaching is when you have someone come alongside of you to help you unlock your potential, maximize your growth, and realize your goals. So a coach is somebody who comes alongside of you, not somebody who interjects himself or herself over you. This is a partnership, if you will. It's a relationship where the coach is there simply to come alongside and help and assist. And that's what a coach is supposed to do. With the coach approach, instead of giving directives, solving all the problems, and telling people what to do, instead what we do is we lead people in a process of mining the wisdom of the Holy Spirit for themselves in order to realize personal growth, ministry development, potential that can be attained, and goals achieved. So I underline the word process because it's important to understand that's exactly what it is. This is a process. It requires time and it requires patience on the part of both the coach and the person being coached. It's not a quick fix. It's not a shortcut, but rather it's working with people and helping people and developing people and enabling them to grow. And I think a healthy way for us to view this is to understand that when we have opportunity like this to take the coach approach with people in certain situations, we are partnering with God in the stewardship he's given us with the people that he's entrusted to us. And that we are working to help them understand the potential that God's put in them. And I love this phrase, to mine the wisdom of the Holy Spirit. And so they're depending on the Spirit of God. They're not depending on the coach. They're depending on the Spirit of God to help draw from them the kinds of things they need in order to be the very best person, that God's called them to be, to develop in the ways God wants them to. What I'd like to do now is to present to you a scenario. Let's talk about a potential real life scenario in which the coach approach could be used. Sort of walk you through what that could look like. And then we'll spend some time talking about what kind of skills you need for implementing the coach approach and some of the benefits, why it's important. And then we're going to revisit this scenario and do just a little bit of a deeper dive with it to help you to glean some things from the coach approach as you work with people. And at the end, we'll review for a moment and then take a few minutes for questions if you have any. So here's the scenario. Let's imagine you're the pastor, and you're pastor of a church, and the children's ministry leader comes to you, and her issue, the problem that she's dealing with, she's been trying to deal with, is that she needs more volunteers for the children's ministry. She needs 3 more volunteers for the children's ministry in order to really have it work like it's supposed to work. I mean, it's kind of limping along right now. It's not everything that it should be or could be. They're doing okay for what they have, but they need 3 more volunteers. And so she comes to the pastor. She says to the pastor, here it is. She shares what the situation is, and then she is going to wait for the pastor to come up with a solution, and because the pastor's a leader. And so as a leader, the pastor comes up with the solution as to what to do in order to get 3 more volunteers. And then the pastor is going to tell the children's ministry leader what she should do, the steps she needs to take in order to have this occur. And then the expectation on both their parts is that she'll be obedient to do the steps that she's supposed to do. And hopefully the end result is going to be 3 more volunteers. And although I could spend a lot of time talking about what is potentially wrong with that scenario and some of the inherent problems with handling things that way, I won't take a lot of time with that. I will mention that as leaders, we don't want to foster a dependence upon us. As leaders, we want to develop people. We don't want a scenario where we want people to come to us, just dump their situations, problems, obstacles, issues. We provide then a solution and we tell them what to do. And in this particular case, if that's the way it unfolded, it wouldn't surprise me at all that this becomes a Band-Aid, and then 3 months later, we find the children's ministry leader coming back to the pastor with still needing more volunteers. The 3 that they got have dropped out or what have you. Now they're back to square one. We don't want to put Band-Aids on situations. We want to see people develop. We want to see them grow. We want to see success as God defines success for each person and for each situation. So let's kind of go through this scenario and talk a little bit about what a coach approach could look like. So the children's ministry leader comes, she shares the situation. And the first thing that the pastor does is he or she listens to what is being shared. And I'll talk about this a little bit more when we revisit this scenario, but there are various levels of listening. And suffice it to say, at this juncture, the pastor listens. I mean, he or she's not distracted, not looking at their cell phone, not thinking about what they might deem to be a more important issue in the church. They're giving their full attention. They're fully present. They're giving their full attention to the children's ministry leader. And may I say that one of the things that does is it just reinforces the value of people. It lets that individual know you're important to me, and what's important to you is important to me. What affects you and in your role as a children's ministry leader is important to me as well. And I'm here to support you in this. I'm here. I want to hear what you have to say, because we want to work this thing out. So it really places a value on people. So first thing the pastor does is listen. And then after listening, he or she will go ahead and maybe start asking some questions. And we'll talk about what those questions can look like later, but that's the kind of questions that will provide the children's ministry leader to delve into this issue with a little more breadth and a little more depth than what they have so far. I need help. How can I get help? How can I get volunteers? What's the best way to do it? What's the quickest way to do it? All right. Taking the coach approach, the pastor's going to ask some questions that helps dig a little deeper into that. And then after doing that, the pastor's going to ask some questions about what options do you see that would help provide volunteers for us? What can we do? What do you see that we could do? And again, the pastor is looking to the children's ministry leader. The pastor's not providing the answers. The pastor's looking to that person. And so let's say they come up with a few options. And then the pastor's going to say, well, out of those that you just mentioned, which one do you think would be the best? And so he's going to help going to help the children's ministry leader come up with what they think might be the very best option. Then he's going to help the leader work through the steps that need to be taken to move forward with that, and to ensure as much as possible success for that option bearing fruit and coming to pass. So I hope you can see that by taking that type of approach, it's a lot different than the pastor just providing an answer and expecting the children's ministry leader to obediently walk that through. What engagement he's bringing to that ministry leader, what value he's placing on that person as a part of the solution to the situation, and what recognition the pastor is giving to that individual as to the creative ability of God within them, with their ability to hear from God, their ability to discern what might be the best way forward with this situation. And then finally, to offer, the pastor offering support to that person so they don't feel like, hey, nobody does ministry alone. So the pastor is ensuring that that individual knows that support is here for you as you walk this through. You're not doing it all by yourself. So, those are that in a nutshell. And like I said, we'll revisit this in a few minutes, but that in a nutshell is taking a situation where you could, as the senior pastor, you could just go ahead and give an answer. That's the quick fix. That's the way to deal with it. I've got more important things to look at right now. Children's ministries, it's important. Sure, I don't want to dismiss that, but yeah, there's some other fires right now that need my attention. Let's deal with this and then move on. But it really engages the other person, and hopefully, as you work this through, it allows there to be a more satisfying and a more permanent approach to a solution instead of something very temporary. Let's talk for a couple of minutes about why we would use the coach approach. And although there are more reasons than this, these are 5 I chose to share with you today. First of all, and perhaps most importantly, it helps people grow and develop. It's all about being people-centric. It's about people. God's into people. So we're people-centric. It's about them. It's about helping them. And when we use the coach approach, we are assisting people in their growth process, step by step, and their development, both as men and women of God, but also as leaders. What a great way to help develop leaders. Take responsibility, move forward, be creative in their thinking, engage problem solving. This is great stuff. And this is the stuff leaders do. So why deprive people of the opportunity to engage in those things? Why not bring them in? So again, just another reason why you'd use the coach approach. Secondly, it empowers others. We really want to see people walking fully in their responsibility, in the empowerment that they have as people, as men and women of God, as those serving in the church, especially if they're in a leadership capacity. We want to empower them. We don't want them to be dependent on the key, on the senior pastor, the key leader, the lead pastor. We want to empower them. Thirdly, it encourages people. It's just a great thing. You get some small wins under your belt, man. It just encourages you. And when you can help people solve problems, you help people deal with situations, you help them hear from the Holy Spirit, man, that just encourages them and inspires them as well. So it has a true encouraging effect in people's hearts. Fourthly, it places responsibility on others. Instead of you as the senior leader taking their responsibility on you, you're letting them take responsibility appropriately. I'm not talking about dumping things on people or expecting more from them than what we should. But, if you have somebody, in this example, if you have somebody serving as the leader of the children's ministry, why not allow them to take responsibility for that ministry? It doesn't mean that they don't report to you. It doesn't mean that you don't have perhaps final say or input into that ministry. But why not let the person who's responsible for it go ahead and accept that responsibility? Why take that away from them? Why should you be the decision maker when they're the ones that have the responsibility for it? And then fifthly, using the coach approach can help to prevent micromanagement. When you allow people and assist them in walking through this process, you're basically taking hands off in terms of making decisions for every little step along the way. Let them handle that. Let them take that responsibility. Sure, you can have checkpoints with them. They check back in. You're supporting them. You're making sure that they're realizing the progress that they thought they would make, or that, excuse me, or that what they thought was going to be a solution is really working out that way. So, that's valuable. You want to be able to do that. So it really helps keep you with your hands off in terms of micromanaging. And for some leaders, that's not an issue at all. For others, there may be a tendency to move in that direction, and taking the coach approach. If you're a leader that maybe has a little bit of a lean into micromanagement, taking the coach approach can help free you of that. So that's a very positive thing. And we're talking about healthy leaders, healthy families, healthy ministries. Starts with the leader. So if that's something that would help you become a healthier leader, then that's a great step to take. How to develop a coaching mindset. And this particular information that you see on your screen is taken from a book called Faith Coaching by a man named Chad Hill. And I have information on that I will share with you at the very end of this session. So if you're interested in that book and writing down information on it, it'll be on the screen for you at the end. But I wanted to, so to speak, give honor to whom honor is due. This is information that came from that book that's excellent, that talks about developing a coaching mindset. And to develop a mindset means that we leave one thing, we go to another. We stop having a certain particular way of thinking about things, and we move to a new way of thinking about things. So in developing a coaching mindset, it requires that we move from a mindset that says, I understand things better than the other person does. And it moves to a mindset that says, I have some information and the other person has other information. So, you're really valuing the person. You're saying, hey, I don't see it all. I'm not the expert in everything. You have expertise in areas I don't. And you have information I don't. So that's going to be valuable in coaching. Another mindset is one that says, my goal is to get the other person to think the way I think. Hey, why wouldn't we? We have the right answers, right? Why wouldn't we want them to think the way that we do? Well, we want to move from that to a mindset that says, my goal is to understand and help the other person clarify. Two things that are outstanding in coaching in terms of what we hope to accomplish is, number one, awareness. We hope for people to gain new awareness of things. And then secondly is clarity. We want to help to bring clarity to people. Of course, the greatest way we do that is by asking the kinds of questions that enable them to mine the wisdom of the Spirit. You want to get clarity, hear from the Holy Spirit, right? So, when we do that, that helps them gain clarity. Another mindset that can be prevalent is the idea that I must maintain a mindset of evaluation and serve as a critic to what the other person says. And, that is so limiting. When we have a coaching mindset, what we're saying is that I must maintain a mindset of curiosity and openness to what the other person says. So I want to be curious as they're sharing. Remember, we're listening. So I'm listening to what they're saying. And while they're talking, I want to have curiosity working in me. I don't want to be tethered to diagnosis. I'm trying to diagnose, okay, what's the situation? What's the real problem here? And then come up with solutions. All right, here's the real problem. Here's what I think the solution is. We want to move away from that. And we want to have a mindset of curiosity. We're listening to them. So, and we're becoming curious. That sounds like an interesting approach. I wonder how they would implement that. So we have a curiosity and an openness to what they have to say. We don't have all the answers, so we're open to what they bring to the table. Developing a coaching mindset. We need to go from a mindset that says people change when they get the right information. Oh, they're so fortunate to have me because I have the right information and that's going to help them change. Well, we all have information about things that where we haven't had life change. People have all kinds of information about things, and just because they have information doesn't mean that they're going to change or make choices differently than what they have in the past. It's not just information. So we need to have a mindset that says that people grow when they recognize truth more clearly and they're motivated to change. So what we bring to the table as coaches is we bring the kinds of questions to them that allow them to dig in a way that enables them to grow. They're receiving truth. They're coming into some things revealed to them that they weren't privy to. And now that's helping them to get motivated to change. What a powerful thing coaching is. We want to move away from telling. I give answers so the other person's to the other person's questions so he or she can learn from me. And we want to move more toward asking. I offer questions that help the other person clarify, discover, and learn for and from himself or herself. So we want to move from telling to asking questions that help bring clarity, that help bring discovery, that help bring learning to a person as they go through this process. And then the last one I'll mention here is that we want to change from a mindset that may say, I want to focus on me as the teacher, to a mindset that says, I want to focus on the other person's growth and development. That is what is so vital. It's not about me, it's about them. How can I serve them? Coaching is a way of serving them. Coaching is a way of developing them and enabling them to grow. So the coach approach is a great way to bring that kind of fruit into people's lives. Now, at this juncture, let me just say that the coach approach is not appropriate for every situation. So I'm not advocating the idea that this is the great panacea, for every problem you encounter, for every situation in your church or ministry, automatically you just go to the coach approach. No, it would be inappropriate. It would just flat out be wrong to utilize the coach approach in some situations. Some situations require the leader to be the leader. And so you need to bring forth directions. You need to be very directive about things. You need to provide inspiration. You need to provide the vision and the insights that people need. You need to define for them the things that are non-negotiable. Help them understand that. So there are lots and lots of situations where the coach approach may not be the appropriate way to go. But what I find is that because we're so used to giving directives and we're so used to providing solutions, that becomes our default mode. And so when opportunities present themselves for a coaching moment, we tend to pass it by, or sometimes we don't even see it or recognize it because we're so much engaged into our normal default problem solving and diagnosing mode. So being mindful that an approach exists of working with people using coaching skills, and that will empower them and equip them. That's just one more significant tool in your ministry tool belt, and can provide both help for you as the leader, but also help for the person receiving the coaching as well. what skills are necessary? Let's just go through these for the next few minutes. So the really great news about the skills that are necessary for coaching, for the coach approach, is that these are skills you already have. So these are things. It's not like you have to go and get PhDs in each one of these things, right? You already have these skills. We just don't always implement them to their fullest capacity. We don't always use them or utilize them fully or completely intentionally. So that's what we want to try to do. So let's run through these. Number one is listening. We've talked about that. There are several levels of listening. One level is just listening for the content, just getting the basic information. The second level of listening is listening beyond that. Sometimes it's not what people say, it's what they don't say. It's, listening for some of those kinds of things, listening for areas of passion coming out in them, or some frustrations, or, some of those kinds of things. It's listening for the heart. And then another level of listening is intuitive listening, or the kind of listening where we're hearing from the Holy Spirit as we're listening to that person. A great example of this is Jesus. Jesus was the master listener. Man, he heard people's hearts. He discerned by the Spirit of God. He was listening not only to them, but listening to the Holy Spirit. And that's where we want to be. We want to be those kind of people. We want to use those skills in working with people and helping others. And then another important skill is asking powerful questions. A powerful question is a question that's open-ended, and it's a question that helps people dive a little deeper, take them into a little more depth. Jesus was just a master at this. Think about how he taught. He not only taught in ways that we might think of as sermons or teachings, but he taught a lot by asking questions. You go through the Gospels, you may be amazed at how many times Jesus simply asked questions. Even in situations we think that a question wouldn't be necessary. One of the most frequently asked questions by Jesus was this: what would you have me do for you? He encounters a blind man on the side of the road. His question to him is, what would you have me do? So, Jesus asked questions. Now, to me, a great example of this is found in Matthew 16, a passage you're very familiar with, I'm sure. But he asked two questions. He asked a question and then sort of a follow-up question. He has his disciples with him. And so he asks a question, which I think is almost it's a content question. It's sort of almost what I would think of as a theoretical question. But he asks them, who do men say that I am? And so the disciples are just, they're just drawing on their memory of what they've heard people say about Jesus. Who do men say that I am? So they respond. And then Jesus follows up with a deep question. He follows up with a personal question. Who do you say that I am? Now that question moved them from thinking theoretically to personally. It moved them from thinking about content to really thinking about what's in their heart. It caused them to really ponder. And to me, the beautiful thing about this is that when Peter was thinking about this, he gets divine revelation. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus says, Peter, you didn't figure this out on your own. Flesh and blood didn't reveal this to you, but God has revealed this to you. So to me, that's just a great example of asking a kind of question that causes somebody to go deeper. And in the process of them going deeper, they hear the Spirit of God speak to them. They come up with revelation. They receive divine insight. Wow, that's a great picture of coaching. We ask questions, we help people dig deeper and mine the wisdom of the Spirit. And another important skill is to be non-judgmental. This helps to provide for people a safe harbor. This is a safe environment for you to share. I'm not going to judge you. Going back to our scenario with the leader of the children's ministry, what would happen if the pastor said, what options have you come up with? What are some of the things you've thought about in terms of getting some volunteers? And the leader says, well, one thing we could do is we could hire some people. And if the pastor responded and said, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, we would never do that as a church. I mean, that just violates what we're about. We would never do that. What else do you have? Now, do you think that individual is going to open up to that pastor and share more? Oh, they're sitting there thinking, I have like 3 other ideas, but I'm not going to open my mouth again. That judgmentalism that came across has just shut them down. So we want to make sure as we work with people, and this is just part of being healthy, isn't it? A healthy leader is we don't want to be judgmental. We don't want to come across as judging people, because that's going to shut them down. We want to see them open up. We want to provide an atmosphere where there's a safe harbor for them to share anything. Now, that doesn't mean we agree with what they say. It doesn't mean we buy into it or that we condone it. It just means that this is a place where you can share that. Another important skill is curiosity. I talked about that a little bit earlier, so that instead of diagnosing, instead of problem solving, let's endeavor to be curious. As people are sharing, as we're listening to them, we're going to we're really at a deeper level of listening. We're becoming curious. And let me tell you that the biggest challenge with this, and maybe I'm just projecting here, but the biggest challenge with this is not having your own thoughts, thinking about how you're going to respond to them while they're talking. Or like I said, diagnosing or problem solving for them. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I know exactly what the problem is, and I have the answer. It's pulling back on that, and it's just allowing yourself to become curious. You're not there to, as a coach, you're not there to solve their problems. You're walking them through a process. So that is vital. And there are some interesting coaching exercises that can be done to help us understand that, what it is to listen to that voice going on in our own mind while somebody else is talking, instead of really listening to them. So curiosity is really important. Managing the process. Your role as a coach is to manage the coaching process, walk them through the process. Well, that's the very next thing we're going to get to in a second. So you want to help people manage this process. They're the experts. When I pastored for about almost 40 years. And when I was pastoring, children's ministry was really important to us, of course. My wife, Kathy, and I, we had 3 children. So obviously the raising up of kids is important. Ministering to children, I don't have to sell you on that. You understand that. But as a pastor, I was not deeply involved and deeply engaged with our children's ministry. We had people who oversaw that. And what I'm getting to is that I wasn't the expert in children's ministry. They were. So I trust them. As a coach, you're not the expert in everything. Other people have expertise. But here's the beauty of coaching. You don't have to be the expert. Your role is to manage the process. Walk them through the process of coaching. Let them hear from the Lord. Let them be the expert in the area or areas that they are, and get the insights that they need. So your role, your skill is to manage the process, know the process, and then manage people through that process. And then the last skill mentioned here is to establish accountability. Now, we often think of accountability, or I'll put it this way, it can be thought of in a negative sense. And sometimes people think about accountability in terms of, I'm going to be checking up on you, going to be making sure that you did what you said you're going to do. And when we apply accountability in the context of coaching, what we're really talking about is support. Accountability, yes, you said you were going to do certain things, and I expect you to do them because you designed these steps and you committed to do them. So I'm taking you at your word. You're a person of your word. I expect you to do it. You can do it. But along the way, I want to support you in that. So we'll be touching base, hey, how's it, how is it going? What kinds of progress are you making? You said that you thought that you said last week that by this time you thought you would be at this particular juncture in the process. Are you there? Are you seeing that kind of progress so far? So it's a supportive role. Sure, I mean, there's accountability, absolutely. But it's accountability from a supportive vantage point. And that's a lot different than accountability from a reporting, you better be doing it right kind of vantage point. All right, let's move into the process. What's the process? And I've already talked about this a little bit. We're just formally identifying this. And let's go back to our scenario. So let's go back to the children's ministry leader. First thing I'm going to do is listen. And so I'm listening to the children's ministry leader, and maybe she's just sharing content. And a conversation like that could go 1,000 ways. And, we're just led by the Spirit in terms of what questions to ask and how it goes. So as the ministry leader is sharing, maybe let's just play with this for a little bit. Just throw this out. Maybe one of the questions I ask is, yeah, gee, I hear you. I can hear the frustration that you're having with not getting the volunteers. And we need volunteers. We want to do that, and I'm going to help you do that. We're going to see this thing through. But just kind of from putting the volunteers aside for a second, how are things going in children's ministry? How are you viewing children's ministry right now? Well, maybe that's a question that just opens things up. And maybe upon hearing that question, she starts to say, well, now that you mention it, I feel like I'm the only one with a vision for children's ministry. I appreciate the faithful workers we have, but I feel like I'm the one carrying this thing. I feel like I'm the one doing a lot of the work. I feel like, so, she shares along those lines. Now, as the pastor and going through this coaching process, that alerts you to the fact that you have something going on here that's deeper than just 3 volunteers. You have somebody who might be on the verge of burnout. You might have somebody whose passion for the ministry is starting to wane. And so, that might be the more important issue to address. I'm not saying that you don't look at the 3 volunteers. So maybe you bring it back to her and you say, that's really important what you shared, and I feel like we need to talk about that. Is that something that you want to spend some time on right now and talk about that? Or do you want to talk about the volunteers? And so maybe she says, this really is important about the ministry, but I feel like I can't go anywhere without getting this volunteer situation dealt with. All right, so that tells you, okay, what's really important is how she's dealing with the ministry right now, where she is. And that's really important. But what's urgent is what we're going to take care of first. So I'm going to help her take care of the volunteers. Let's sweep that off the table. Then we can really delve into what she's dealing with regarding the ministry. So I'm just saying to you, that's one way that things could go, simply because you asked a question. Questions are powerful. So you just ask that question. So let's say she just, shares about the 3 volunteers and all. I say, okay, here's a powerful question. We're moving into asking questions. So you might say to her, all right, well, let's just put the volunteers aside for a moment. But when you think of a fully functional, vibrant children's ministry, describe that for me. Now you're tapping into some passion. She's going to start sharing from the passion of the vision that is there. She's going to give you some big picture stuff. And so that, one of the things that does is it helps connect her it helps connect the volunteer situation with the big picture. You know, sometimes the immediate issue can be so looming for people that they lose sight of the big picture. So just asking a question like that really reconnects them and perhaps even reignites the passion in them for what was originally there. That's just a good vision kind of question. And then that opens the door to other questions you could ask. Get back to the volunteers. You might want to ask a clarifying question. So a clarifying question is for the coach. So as a pastor coach here, I just want to find out some information for a second. So I want to find out, what have you done? So what have you done so far to bring in volunteers? And so she tells me what she's done. Because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about something that she's already done that hasn't worked. So let's talk about, are there any changes that you can make in the way that things are presently going in the children's ministry that would be more appealing to volunteers? So are there any changes you can make that would bring a greater appeal factor to people? And I'll just throw this out to you, and I hope we're not getting too much in the weeds here, but you know, maybe a question like that, she's just stumped. I don't know. I can't really think of anything. Not sure. You can help her out a little bit. Say, well, you know, so when you think about, are there things presently in the children's ministry that could be changed or tweaked? What about the way that things are scheduled? Could the schedule be changed? What about personnel? What about any systems that you have in place? What about the curriculum? You know, so you just, you know, rattle off a few things like that. They get her thinking along those lines. Again, you're not trying to provide a solution. You're just providing a catalyst for her to then think a little bit deeper about that. And maybe from one of those things you mentioned, she comes up with a couple of ideas. You say, all right, well, let's brainstorm for a minute. See if you can come up with four new ideas on how to get volunteers. And so, you know, that might be met with silence at first. That's okay. It's like, I don't know. Well, let's think about that for a minute. You just kind of help her brainstorm. Maybe she comes up with three, maybe not four. She comes up with three new ideas, three new ways to get volunteers. Then your next question, you want to kind of hone that down a little bit. So tell me, what do you think is of those three options, what do you think might be the best one to lead to success? What do you think is the optimum way to go? And, you know, she would identify one, and then you talk about action steps. You know, so what do you need to do to get that moving? You know, how would you implement that? What steps do you need to take? So she comes up with action steps. Then you work out accountability. Then, you know, so you come into those areas, just kind of working that out. All right, we'll touch base next week. We'll give a call. We'll see how you're doing, and just, you know, see if there's anything I can do to support you in that. So, you know, you move forward in that area of accountability. So we've gone from listening to action steps. You're exploring different options. You've come up with the best option, and now you've come up with action steps. That basically is the process. You're walking someone through that process of coaching and bring them to fresh insights. And then finally, what are the results? And I won't spend any time on this, but, you know, growth, ownership and responsibility. You're empowering people. They're getting encouraged. They're getting fresh confidence. Great way to gain momentum as well. And then to see objectives and goals and dreams realized. So this, in essence, is how, as a minister, how as a man or woman of God, you can take certain scenarios, certain situations, and instead of automatically defaulting to providing the solutions, you can go ahead and use that as a great opportunity for coaching people as well. Here is the book that I talked about, Faith Coaching. It's by Chad Hall. Faith Coaching, Chad Hall. Last I looked, within the last week, it was available on Amazon for $15. Kindle like $10. So very affordable book, and one that I would encourage you to add to your library. All right, let's go ahead and move into any questions that you might have. So if you have any questions, want to ask anything, go ahead and unmute and ask your questions, and I'll do my best to address it.
I just want to tell you, thank you. It was a very good presentation.
Sure, my pleasure. You know, I hope that one of the things you can walk away with today is just recognizing that, you know, obviously you can do this, you have the skills. And for the most part, it's just a matter of being aware of the opportunities that present themselves. And instead of going into default telling mode or providing answers mode, then you could slip over into the coach mode and help people solve their own issues, problems, and even as it relates to ministry, let them take the responsibility and grow them, help them be the leader that God's called them to be. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I trust this has been helpful to you. Let me just check the chat for a moment, just see if there's any questions
I have
in
a question.
here.
Pastor,
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
do you think it's helpful to let your leaders know that you're switching to coaching mode?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I would say yes. I think it is helpful that you know, especially if you've been in the habit or they're used to being in a scenario where you're providing the direction. You let them know, let's just approach this differently, right? So let's just try something a little different this time, because and you can express your confidence in them. You know, I know you have what it takes to work this through. So let me help you with this. You know, and just, you know, sure. I think that's a great thing to do, and maybe puts both of you on the same page.
Right.
Another thing I want to mention is that this works in teams. It's not with teams. It's not just individual. So if your children's ministry leader is the leader of a team of children's ministers, then and she's responsible for that, then you can walk her through the coaching process and have her take that to her team. So she's not making the decision on how are we going to get volunteers. She's going to take that process to her team, walk them through that, and together they're going to come up with the best solutions for that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Ernie, this is Reinhard. I had a
Yeah.
quick question, a general question about life coaching, because you see it's become very prevalent in the last few years. Do you have any comments? Have you seen people get involved in it in the wrong way or a good way? Are people taking more responsibility for their lives or less when they do that?
Yeah, great question and observation, perhaps, in how it can work out in some people's lives. With FCF, we've had a coaching ministry for, I think, 5 or 6 years, kind of lost track at this point. And we have focused primarily at this point on life coaching. And I can tell you that it has been very transformational. We have a number of our ministers who have been through life coaching, and it has really been extremely helpful. I've gone through life coaching. My coach helped me tremendously. I've seen significant fruit and growth in my life as a result of that. And I would recommend life coaching for anyone. I think it'd be very helpful for anyone wherever they are, and it really helps bring a holistic view. So it's not just about focusing on ministry, or it just looks at you as a person. It can be very, very helpful. So I'm an advocate for life coaching.
Hey, thanks.
Sure. Anyone else? Well, thank you for the privilege of sharing today and for checking in. Appreciate you being part of this workshop, and trust that you have a great rest of the day. Look forward to the other things that God has for us for the remainder of this week. God bless you.